Well, welcome everyone and happy holidays. Today's program, Get Pro on Prebiotic Pears, has merit because, through the holidays, we all have a tendency to eat a little more, maybe eat a little less of the foods that are loaded with fiber, like vegetables, fruits, whole grains, legumes, even nuts and seeds. And we have a tendency to eat a little bit more of the processed foods. And by that I mean just foods that have been milled like flour into white flour, and they show up in our holiday gift exchanges as cookies, pies, treats, you name it, along those lines. And we also have a tendency to drink just a little bit more alcohol through the holidays. Now, all of this can play havoc with our gut, and this is super important because there are two ways that our gut is affected. One is our microbiome, which just is the collection of bacteria, funguses, and even a few viruses in there as well. But it's a collection of all these microbes that live in our gut, and that can be affected, which has big consequences over time. And we can also be affected with the function of our gut, such as the mobility of things. So as we get started with this recipe, it's a fabulous recipe that just incorporates a lot of my favorite flavors and captures the season with an Asian pear, which you've probably seen this before. It's just a great, wonderful addition for making a slaw because it's hard and firm. You can also use a different type of pear, but I thought this was really cool because this particular recipe is going to have, like I said, a few of my favorite ingredients that are going to bring together some Asian hints of flavor. So we've got like a Thai chili, some scallions, as well as ginger. And all of this is just going to come together fabulously, and you're going to love it. So a couple people have told me that they wanted a little more instruction with the video. So I've got a few, I've saved a few things to show you. Just because this recipe requires a little bit of knife work. So definitely keep about 15 minutes for the making of this recipe when you set aside the time. So I'm just going to begin by putting a couple tablespoons of lime juice into our bowl. And I have a juicer, which makes it super easy. But if you don't have a juicer, you could easily use tongs to squeeze the limes and get the maximum amount of juice. So again, about 2 tablespoons of this lime juice. And I pre-measured the rice wine vinegar, that goes in as well. And on a cool note, we've got the fresh ginger. And I love ginger because, especially this time of year, because it has the capsaicin. And this is what is going to relieve, let's say, a sore throat. So if you're feeling a little scratchy or sore in the back of your throat, ginger can actually be of help. So simply, I'm just going to grate about a 1/2 inch into our mix. And this is what's going to make the dressing. And the ginger is going to add just a bit of heat as well as that classic ginger taste. And you can just scrape that off on the back side of the grater, and we're set. So a quick whisk and the dressing is done. Where the knife work comes in is really with the preparation of the Asian pear. I know it's surprising that all pears actually come from China, so the fact that this one's called an Asian pear kind of doesn't make sense compared to the others. I've got one that I've already peeled, and simply I just used a regular potato peeler for that and simply scraped off the outside. But I wanted to show you in particular how I julienned the actual pear. So I cut it in half and then half again, so I have quarters. The core is easily removed by cutting at an angle, and I've removed the core. Pretty simple. And I'll do that again on the second half. And then to julienne, what that is, we're just talking about very slim slices, and I'll cut across the pear, creating those thin slices, and then I'm going to slice again to make the matchsticks that are going to give this a really elegant slaw-like look. So a couple of things. You can stack the pieces of pear one on the other to create the julienne matchsticks, or you can just kind of lay them out flat, and it can be somewhat random. I'll show you even how random I have mine here. And simply cut the length of these slices into matchsticks. Now, pears are notorious for being a great fiber source, and I've alluded to the importance of fiber, especially when talking about gut health, but it's really super important. Let me show you these matchsticks that we've got going on here. So very simply, that came together. Like I said, I already pre-cut one of the pears so that we have that ready to go. And when we talk about gut health, as I mentioned, two things come into play: the gut microbiome itself, and then also the functionality of the gut. And through the holidays, that's what we want to protect, is the microbiome, which are those microbes, and we also want to protect the functionality. So let me back up and explain the microbiome. I'm going to cut a little bit more pear here. The microbiome we actually inherit from our mothers, largely at birth. However, there has been some research that shows that we are already beginning to develop our gut bacteria when we're in the womb. Now, after that, as we get exposed to different foods and bacteria in the things that we eat and put in our mouth as babies, we develop a greater variety of bacteria. And it's thought that the more bacteria that we have, more good bacteria, and the greater variety that we have, the healthier our gut. And we know that this bacteria has been called the second brain, and collectively it does weigh about the size of a brain, about a couple pounds, if you put all the bacteria together. However, the reason it gets that name is because it functions, kind of communicates with other systems in our body like a brain. So it helps orchestrate how our immune system responds. It also communicates with our nervous system and thus our brain. And it, as the microbiome, it also is helpful in helping us reduce our risk of inflammation and chronic disease. So how we feed our microbiome is by giving it fiber, and the greater variety of fiber that we can give, the better. That's going to help the microbiome diversify, but it's also going to help it multiply. So the next thing, we've got our pears in the bowl. They've been julienned and sliced into those cute little matchsticks. Next step is to add the celery. Some of this I have pre-cut and made those beautiful little matchsticks. A little bit crunchier than the pear. I'm going to go ahead and add that in, but I wanted to show you how I did that, because transforming a celery stalk into matchsticks doesn't necessarily seem as easy as with the pear. So simply just cutting off the ends of the celery, the joint at the top, as well as the rough ends towards the root. You can save this for making stock, and it helps to pre-cut the length of the matchstick that you would like. And a couple of things: if you're working with a very large piece, like the very base of the celery, you can press it out flat, and I just used my knife as if I was pressing a garlic clove to remove the outer skin. This is going to make it flat and a little bit more easy to slice lengthwise and get our beautiful little matchsticks. And voila. On the other hand, you can also just work with the curvature and rotate the celery, creating putting the portion that you're going to be cutting against the cutting board so that you're able to, again, get those matchsticks. Now what I did, because these are a little bit thick, is I actually laid the slices of celery flat and cut them lengthwise one more time. I know that sounds like one extra step, and it's by no means necessary, but as far as the visual presentation, it creates a much thinner and a little bit more evenly matchstick to the pears. So those are going to go right into our mix here. And we're going to also add some green onions. So I will show you how I cut those. They've been cleaned and washed, and I like to basically slice them in half or so and line them up all together. And me personally, I like to cut at an angle, and this is going to create a beautiful, and I do mean beautiful, angled shape. And here you see how the green actually creates kind of an oblong, oval, pointed piece, and it just really shows up beautifully. So I'll add those in, but to show you how I do it, again, grouping everything together, placing it on the cutting board, I'm going to place my knife, or come down with my knife, instead of perpendicular crosswise here, I'm going to put it at an angle and go across the scallions. So again, like I said, you get that beautiful diagonal cut, and it's just going to be really pretty. Add that in. So a couple of things that we know about fiber. Again, we're talking about gut health. When we eat more processed foods, even if it's just flour in a cookie, and maybe you don't have a lot of them, it displaces some of the fruits and vegetables that you might otherwise have. And this reduces the amount of fiber that we're getting. So, through the holidays, enjoy your celebrations. It's not that you're not going to enjoy these wonderful holiday foods, but at the same time, enjoying a month worth of those holiday foods could actually have an impact on your gut biome and actually change the microbes that are there. But it also can have an impact on your motility and how regularly you're able to move your food through your gut. And we all like to be regular, and we know that that's an important aspect of maintaining our weight through the holidays. So eating plenty of fiber is going to be super important. It's going to give your intestines something to press against to help keep things moving forward. And this is really important because it keeps your intestinal muscles strong, but like I said, keeps you regular at the same time. So I'm adding in part of the cilantro that I have cut in advance, but I want to also show you that, because a lot of times we look at cilantro and we think that we need to pick each and every leaf off of these stems, which takes a little bit of time and really isn't necessary. So you can actually use a handful of cilantro, or this could actually be parsley as well, and include some of these lengthy stems because they have flavor too. And you can just simply bunch it all together and use your knife to cut across to mince your herb. Once you have done that, you can cut across one more time, and you have perfect minced cilantro. And again, the stems are going to blend right in. They've got great flavor, and when you're mincing things finely, it doesn't matter that you're actually using the stem as well. All right, so we've got really a lot of our flavor in there. The last thing I wanted to add is our Thai chili pepper, and I wanted to show you a couple things. One, you definitely want to wear gloves when handling these types of peppers. The oils can actually linger on your hands even after washing with soap and water. So I know sometimes people will ask about using ginger paste versus ginger, and really either one is great. There might be some slight difference with the taste, but both would be totally acceptable. You could even use ground ginger too, because again, we're just talking about getting the flavor into the mix. Now, I kind of took it easy with the Thai chili pepper. I'm not sure how hot it is, and I'm a little nervous about just trying it on its own. I think you can understand. And I'm just going to add a little bit. I can always add more into our mix here. I could certainly toss this with my gloves, but if you've got a couple of salad hands or perhaps just a set of tongs, you can give this a nice toss and incorporate all the ingredients together. Now, this is me personally. I had wished that the Thai chili pepper was red, so there would be little flecks of red in this, but I think it's also just as beautiful to have this monochromatic green salad here, where you've got the herbs, the celery, and then that cilantro tying it all together, kind of creating that monochromatic look. So a couple of things people often also ask, do we only get fiber from fruits and vegetables? And that's a big source of fiber, but by no means the only source. You get fiber from whole grains, from legumes. You also get it from nuts and seeds. So I'm just going to put a little bit here on our plate with a garnish of cilantro, and I'm just going to top this off with a pinch of white sesame seeds. Retrospectively, this could have been chopped up peanuts. I think that would have been really lovely, or even pistachios. I think that would have been a nice texture to add. And finally, that's our salad. Sounds good. Hope to see everybody very soon. Happy holidays.